Hello class, this is Mr. Harriman. In the last two classes, we've been talking about how about the different spheres of the Earth, including the biosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, and geosphere, as well as talking about the water cycle and how water flows through different parts of the Earth and goes through different phase changes in order to get around different parts of the Earth. Today we're going to be doing a similar task with carbon. We're going to see how carbon cycles through the different spheres of the Earth. So first we're going to log back into Gizmo. So again, the login is going to be RH student, and the password will be Gizmo, Gizmo. Give it a second to open up. It may take a second on your computer. Just like that, it's opened up. So choose any of these classes. It doesn't really matter at this point. So once you're in a class, you're going to go to Find Gizmos. Find Gizmos. And once you're in Find Gizmos, I want you to open up Carbon Cycle. This one right here. So once you're in Carbon Cycle, you're going to either click the image here where it says Launch Gizmo or hit Launch Gizmo here. Either one will work. Now, when you have this open, I want you to go over to the, in Google Classroom, I will have shared a worksheet, this worksheet here. A student exploration of the carbon cycle. So before you interact with the gizmo, before you do anything in the gizmo, you're going to answer the first two prior knowledge questions here. How do plants affect the amount of carbon in the Earth's atmosphere? You can answer that based off this information here. And you're going to answer, animals eat plants and produce carbon dioxide and water. How do animals affect the amount of carbon in the Earth's atmosphere? So you want to think about, are plants and animals adding carbon to the Earth's atmosphere, or are they taking carbon out of the Earth's atmosphere? Once you've answered those two questions, you can now go to the gizmo. In the gizmo, you see multiple options of places, and we're starting, it says, with the atmospheric CO2. That's why that is the one that's glowing. You can also see different other different spaces glowing, blinking on and off. We have land plants, exposed rock, and CO2 blinking on and off. So when you are in this state, the ones that are blinking are the ones that you can choose. They're the ones where the that carbon can go to from this location. So you're going to follow the prompts in the worksheet to answer each of the questions. In the gizmo, you're going to be able to read about the carbon in these different reservoirs, and you're going to answer the questions in the worksheet based off that information. Do not copy and paste the information. I'll be able to tell if you're doing that. Please only summarize the information. So I want a summary for each question. You're going to read what it says in the gizmo, and you're going to summarize those points in your answers. Once you've finished these directions, you're going to go and answer these questions. You're going to go to the activity. So in the activity, you're going to explore the gizmo, and you're going to follow a path of carbon dioxide through various different areas of the Earth. You're going to see how carbon travels between these areas. While you're doing that, you're also going to be tracking its movement between the four systems, the four spheres of the atmosphere, hydrosphere, geosphere, and biosphere. So say we start with atmosphere, and that is obviously atmospheric CO2. That is being in the system of the atmosphere, and it states how we got there. So when you click one of these other options, exposed rock, land land plants, or or oceanic CO2, you're going to read the statement down here telling you how it got there. So if I went from atmospheric CO2 to land plants, it now tells me that's a jump I've made. Now, different areas are glowing, as those are possible places that carbon can go to from land plants, and we're told how the carbon goes from atmospheric CO2 to land plants. So that is what you're going to fill in here, how it got there. You're going to tell me, you're going to say what system it's in, of atmosphere, hydrosphere, geosphere, or biosphere, and you're going to tell me how it got there. And you're going to say where it is, obviously right here. You're going to continue this process until you get back to atmospheric CO2. You're going to continue until you get back to atmospheric CO2. There are lots of different paths you could take. Try to find an interesting one. So once you finish your path and you've gone back to atmospheric CO2, you said what part each reservoir, which system each reservoir is in, which sphere each reservoir is in, and how it got to that reservoir. You're going to go to, my apologies, you're going to go to here, where you're going to try to find a path in which the carbon goes from the atmosphere to the hydrosphere, to the biosphere, to the geosphere. You're going to look for a path that does that. You're going to say what reservoir it is in. Again, reservoirs being these different named spots: atmospheric CO2, exposed rock, soil, forest fires, coal. These are all reservoirs, we're going to say. So you're going to say how it got to, so you're going to say what reservoir it is in, making sure it matches up with the sphere, and how it got to that reservoir. Again, you're going to summarize that answer. You're not going to write the exact thing that the gizmo gives you. You're going to summarize what it tells you. After that, you're going to find three more different paths, each starting and ending in the atmosphere. And for each location, these locations, you're going to identify them as A for atmosphere, B for biosphere, G for geosphere, or H for hydrosphere. So, for example, if I was starting and I went from the atmosphere to the exposed rock, that is my new location, my new reservoir. I would write A for atmospheric CO2, and then I would do an arrow, and then I would type an arrow to the exposed rock with G for geosphere. So that would look like atmospheric CO2, CO2, parentheses A for atmosphere, and then hyphen, character right for an arrow, and we're going to go to exposed rock, of G for geosphere. And you want to continue this until you get back to atmospheric CO2. Try to make it interesting. Once you get back to atmosphere, that's when you're going to stop. So you want 3 such paths. Finally, we're going to get to the explain. In the explain, is all we're doing today. In the explain, you're going to identify 2 ways that the carbon gets from a land plant to the atmosphere, two routes that can take. You're going to identify at least two ways that carbon gets from the atmosphere to the hydrosphere, at least 2 ways. And the paths what those paths are. You're going to find 2 ways that carbon can get from the ocean to the lithosphere, as identified here, the lithosphere. And at least 2 ways the carbon gets from the seashells to the atmosphere. So from the seashells, to the atmosphere. And again, these are at least 2. So I'm expecting 2 for each of these. If you give me more than that, that is worth extra credit. So that is what we're doing today. After this next class, we're going to be looking at activities B, human activities, and activity C, modeling the carbon cycle. But for now, we're just going to do the first 2 pages. Thank you. Have a good, and if you have any questions, let me know. Good luck.